joined by Ashley Kirzinger from KFF.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great. So hi, everyone. I'm so sorry that I can't be there to join you in person. I really enjoyed participating virtually from Maine, where we have our first sunny day of the entire year, and it's Friday, and I think I have like 5 minutes, so let's get started. I want to make sure that I acknowledge all the people that continue to contribute to this line of work, including the stellar team at SSRS, many of whom are in the room with you, and my colleagues at KFF. My next slide poses a really simple question that many of you may be asking yourselves right now. So the question is, why should you think about incorporating prepaid phones in your probability surveys? Well, this talk will briefly give you my argument and why I think it's important and why KFF implements prepaid samples in most of our work. And so I'm going to quickly go through the basics in the next slide. What is a prepaid phone? Nearly all of us have cell phones in our pockets or on the table in front of us. Most of us have access to our phone numbers through a cell phone provider like AT&T. You may have gone to a retail store, transferred your SIM card into your new iPhone, and agreed to pay a certain amount for a service over the next 24 months. That's how about 60% of the US adult population accesses cell services. On the next slide, for survey researchers, most RDD sample files have a flag to indicate whether each number is a contract or non-contract phone. There isn't perfect accuracy on these flags, but previous research has shown that the flagged prepaid numbers are correlated with certain demographic groups like non-white adults, non-English speaking, individuals with lower levels of income and education, the groups that many of the presentations today have talked about wanting to increase representation among. And so why is this? Well, the 40% or so share of the US adult population that doesn't have access to a cell phone contract look different than those who do have such access. So in the next slide, you'll see this is largely due to financial barriers and discrimination. Previous work that my colleagues and I have done in this area has demonstrated that non-contract phone numbers are more common among the key groups of interest and some of the hardest groups to recruit for a survey, which provides us with a little bit of an opportunity, I think. My next slide is going to quickly go through a recent case study, and then I'm going to pose some questions to all of you. So on the next slides, here are the details of a project that we worked on nearly 2 years ago. And the big takeaway is that it combines two key sampling designs: address-based sampling, which are often used in probability panel recruitment, as well as a prepaid RDD sample. Next slide. So as you can see here, the sampling design for both the ABS and the prepaid were relatively similar. We were trying to stratify to reach certain demographic groups. And while we did a much larger sample using the ABS push-to-web sample, we did have over 1,200 individuals who participated in the project and came from the prepaid RDD sample. The next slide shows the demographic groups of the ABS and the prepaid samples. These are unweighted sample demographics from both. And oh, thanks for moving me. Yeah, that makes more sense. As you can see, what the big difference is, the prepaid sample provides larger shares of non-US born Hispanic adults, individuals with lower levels of educational attainment, and a key demographic that's really important to KFF's work, uninsured adults. So what does this tell us? The next slide. What we found in that survey was incorporating the prepaid sample helps us improve our overall sample demographics, as well as helps KFF provide better estimates around people's healthcare experiences and their attitudes. So my questions for you. On the next slide, I've hopefully now convinced you that this is a targeted way to increase representation of certain demographic groups in your panels. But now you are asking yourselves, how should I incorporate prepaid? Well, don't worry, I'm going to give you 2 ways very briefly, because I know we're very close to out of time. But I'm suggesting a kind of fit for purpose approach in this. So the next slide shows the 2 ways that I'm talking about. You could supplement your sample with prepaid on a case-by-case basis, depending on the project's needs. Say a client wants to reach certain groups like immigrant adults, or younger adults or Hispanic men, this could be a great way to add additional sample and also run it on your panel. So you can use your panel that you already have existing and then supplement in order to reach the sample sizes for those key groups. I know some of you may already be including RDD as a sampling approach for your panels. So you could also just modify your RDD approach to focus on prepaid or oversample based on those flags for increased representation of these groups. One thing that we've been working with SSRS on is in situations where we are supplementing, we also add a panel recruitment to the end of the survey. So supplemented on to a panel project and then asking them if they then want to join the SSRS opinion panel. The next slide shows one example of that kind of supplementing. Thank you. So this is from just our monthly tracking poll. Let's just go ahead and skip to the next slide because I want to make sure that we get all of this. So the demographics, so the one on the one column that I'm blocking is the prepaid only, and then it's the total panel. So as you can see, when you compare the demographics, there are differences, right? When you rely on the prepaid versus the panel, including, what I talked about, lower levels of education and higher representation of Hispanic and non-US born. In terms of recruitment, on the next slide, if you recruit to SSRS has been recruiting to the SSRS opinion panel from prepaid samples, not just KFFs, but others. And yes, it is like a very small fraction of their larger, wonderful probability panel, but it does help with panel representation. On the next slide, you can see that even though it is like a small segment, we have the prepaid and versus the total panel. And as you can see, it is a slightly different demographic group that is part of the panel that was originally recruited using prepaid versus the other forms of recruitment. So my last slide for you, I'm well aware that I'm asking you to increase costs, which is something that we're all struggling with as part of your probability panels. And this talk has mostly been entirely focused on CADI methods. And so if you were wondering if you could do an SMS push to web for the prepaid, I'm going to be talking about that at APOR. So happy to answer those questions or just email me. And I'm well aware this is not for every project or organization to take on the financial costs of including prepaid in your sampling strategy, but hopefully I've made you think about how you could do that and modify your current recruitment or supplement your samples in order to increase representation of some of our lowest responding demographic groups. And that I think I pulled off in time. So thanks.
Thank you.